And I forgot to turn on my camera. And I think I forgot to put on my headphones as well. Wait a second. I'll be right back. Say something? Cool. I don't hear you. That's great. I've checked everything. I've set up everything except my earphones. That's great. So why don't I hear anything?
Oh, you can't hear me because I was muted.
Okay. Then was it? Okay.
Good afternoon.
Hey. So,
Hey.
what's with the first restaurant metaphor for today?
I don't know. Chicken.
Chicken.
I joked that we're doing sprint planning today.
So sprint
but
planning.
not restaurant metaphor. We're building a menu. There we go.
Okay, what's new? What's new for you in the tech world?
New for me in the tech world? Not so much. I've been following Kent Beck's work lately, waiting for him to start publishing the early draft from Tidy Together. That's new. I've been doing value stream mapping and waste walks with a new team that I've been onboarded to. Yeah, that's a lot of it. Been busy. What's new for you?
Very busy. So right now we are in the middle of the release phase still. So release phases are always a little bit longer than expected.
When are you releasing?
Actually, we are releasing right now. So it's just we have two segments in which we release simultaneously. Basically, we still have a big web to print segment we want to serve. And that's the reason why we basically deploy the very same software into two spaces, which have a, let's say, 80 to 90% overlap in the platform, but not entirely. And right now, we basically decided to build in some more AI features and say, okay, that distinguishes us and our platform more from other competitors like existing page builders, Shopify, StanStore, Paperbill, those kind of things. And we are more going into the direction of really having a smart marketing AI, which is basically built around your context with Alan Dibb's one-page marketing plan in mind. And that is all done. It's all finished now. And this is what we basically built onto the landing page right now, which is not yet released, but will be probably tomorrow, I think. And the application itself will be available starting from next week. We're going now into some form of multiple day closed beta with some coaches we know. And then, or creators we know in general. So content creators and coaches are on the platform currently the very same thing. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. But we do it step by step. I don't want to, announce anything right now anymore. I want to focus on these kind of things because we want to do it right. We want to do it good. And that's the point, right? And I always get into this situation where I underestimate and overestimate things. So overestimate what we can do and underestimate what we need to do. Still, after all those years, it's an illness which is still there.
It's normal.
Yeah, and it is like there's so much coming in which you don't expect from outside. We're not only so this is basically a new thing next to everything what we have done anyway for the last years, right? And that makes it so interesting. But I am quite hot because it is basically done. The solution is basically done. We have everything. We even have made a big migration because we migrated away from DigitalOcean Air Platform. Just wanted to say that because we saw that we have a very write-heavy application because it is basically, it looks like a big landing page thing, but in reality, it is basically a hybrid app which writes. So the entire management things are in the same application, like the things which generating things, which makes it very write heavy, especially caching and database writes. And the app platform with gvisor isn't fast enough, so we moved to Kubernetes. And next Thursday, we will talk with a company called Mugenius about that, because they helped us to have the similar experience of app platform just on a DigitalOcean managed cluster for Kubernetes, which is still a great thing to have, because I'm always a fan of having a platform as a service, which is not infrastructure as a service. We will do that next Thursday, part of the Build in Public thing. So
who is we?
Jonathan, me, and Jan.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's my short story. So next week will be probably all about releasing, talking about that, the next thing to come, roadmap, how we handle things. There's so much to handle, really. It's not a small thing. It's so, there are some founders going with a small prototype micro SaaS application to the market, and we are building the battleship, right? And try to push it through the pond. It's a little bit like,
but it's not new, right? It's an evolution of your previous product.
It is. This is the problem. So we basically, instead of building something from ground up, we try to reduce it to something we can use for the B2C market, which it's a different story, actually. And it's very interesting. I'm looking forward for that one. Yeah.
So let's plan. Today we're on plan. We are doing stream planning. We're not doing steam planning as it is in the title. We're doing stream planning.
Is it Steam season? Okay, it's somehow I called it Steam season.
Been playing too much on your Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So Calvin had a request that I recall about seeing our setups, like how we work. Like last time there was an episode about what tools, so software, what do we use for remote only teams. We sort of went through what we're using for collaboration, pairing. Gather notably stood out as like a very useful tool, and Kalyan voiced the interest in seeing our actual desktop setups, our physical hardware and everything. There's nothing much to it, but it might be interesting to have an episode about it.
I think mine is not really optimized for programming, to be honest, because I can program basically everywhere and on everything. That is something I learned over the years, so I don't have problems with any environments. But my environment is very much the typical all-around thing. So I do programming here, I do video here, I do live streaming here. It's a little bit of everything. So it's not really like optimized. So for example, if I would optimize my work space for basically programming, I would try to get a very good single screen in front of me, not too large.
Yeah.
And to focus on that one, that would be my preferred choice. But I cannot do that because I'm, first of all,
it's easier to stream this way.
Stream, front end, video, those kind of things, having multiple things open at the same time. There often helps to have a widescreen still, even though that's not the streamer's choice. But again, it needs to be, let's say, very versatile. And that's one of the interesting parts, I think.
Should we put it on the board? Should we get the board in front of us?
And everything is based on a laptop, actually, not on a desktop. So I can basically pack everything into my backpack. I have a backpack with me, a technical one. There's a specific type of how I pack it. And my wife is always laughing, but I always have this backpack with me. Even if we just go out to buy some food or something like that, that is in my trunk. I always have this backpack with me. Love that. I always will. That's cool.
What the other thing that stands up, so that's for the agenda. I think this will be an interesting conversation to have. Maybe as a filler episode in between more heavier tech topics. I wouldn't start next week with that.
No? Okay.
So also counting in, I will be gone the week of the first full week of October, I'll be gone. So I won't be streaming on the 8th. I think that's my plan for now. So October 8th, I won't be streaming.
Okay, just can you put it in then in the calendar? Then I do a little thing.
So that's Danish away. Okay. And then we had a discussion regarding how coding is not the bottleneck.
We want to have that.
Well, we had that already to some degree.
But we wanted to have it again with Tim Oettinger and
yes,
yeah.
And invite maybe some. I'm thinking maybe we could have 2 guests on.
That was the plan.
To like contrast a discussion. So maybe Tim and maybe if we can get Tim and Brian, or Tim and I don't know. Like it's
Tim more leaning to enterprises or startups.
I don't know. I haven't spoken with him yet.
Because it would be interesting to have a person focused on the enterprise level and on the startup level, because there is a lot of difference.
Is Tim here with us? I don't think so. Tim, if you're in chat, give us a live sign, please. Calling Tim Oettinger. From what I saw from his LinkedIn, Tim is now moving to the UK. Or is in the UK already.
From
the US. Or Canada. I don't know. We'll see.
I wasn't sure if he's German because it's a German name.
Oettinger?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So I'm not sure. My understanding was that he was moving to the UK or within the UK, but I think there was a move and the destination was UK. That's what I picked up on from his social media communication, which means we're now in the same time zone-ish. We weren't previously. So that's one aspect. Because, okay, that's that. We need a guest there. We definitely need to speak with Tim, check his availability, check his interest, recheck commitment to make sure he actually wants to show up. But he already sort of volunteered. We just need to frame it better and recheck if he's okay with our framing. Let me check out a video of him real quick. Does he sound British? No, he's American or Canadian. Okay. So with Tim, the next steps are intro call. I think we should have like a briefing with Tim about what he would be interested in, whether he has some suggestions, and us bringing potential guests, a guest list on the intro to discuss who we would have the round table with. It will be nice to have a round table with 4 people, so that we can sort of pass along the conversation and get multiple views on, accelerating development work, with AI. That was like notably the impetus for that discussion, but also like what did we learn for the last 60 years, 40 years about software engineering, and why, what fallacies are still there that makes people believe and obsess about coding speed or output speed over the actual hard problems in software, which is a mix of everything else.
I tried to send a message, but I can't send a message right now. That's annoying.
To?
Here in Restream to.
Mm-hmm.
Our tech journey is not possible. Don't know. I don't know. Never mind. So I have asked him right now via DM. So that would be basically the topic would be coding is parenthesis not the bottleneck, because I would like to have a discussion about that, because it is not absolute topic. It's relative, but probably leaning towards it's not a bottleneck, but the discussion will be interesting anyway. This is the reason why I would like to have someone who's really on the other side to see both worlds, right?
Look, if nothing else, it would be interesting to speak with Tim about his experience working at Industrial Logic.
Mhm.
I mean, Industrial Logic has been, for the most part, been, let's say, one of the flagship providers for consulting services with regards to extreme programming, lean, value stream mapping, flow engineering, DDD to some degree, etc. So if nothing else, we can have an episode with Tim about him, like sharing his insights over the last, I don't know what, 15 years that he's been working or consulting with them. Like that would be, let's say, a healthy alternative to a roundtable if logistics prevented us from hosting that.
Okay. What is another topic we could do? What would you like to do? So something we might have not done for quite a while. Is there something of your core topics like TDD, something like that, on your screen which you want to discuss?
Well, I have a few personal coaching clients who had like I would say breakthroughs fairly recently in like the past few weeks. Like, so coaching clients of 6 months plus to a year that had like big breakthroughs in our work together. Again, some of my coaching clients come in, they want a little bit of help, but my best clients are, you know, in it for the midterm, let's say, right? If I'm consulting and they always need my help, then something's not working. They always need a coach. So there is definitely that sort of decline in intensity after like 2 years or 14 months is usually, I think. By the last time I measured, it was like 14 months. There was like a noticeable decline in intensity that they either outgrow me or they don't need my help as much because I've basically given all of my mainstream advice that was irrelevant for that time frame. But these two had like similar and completely independent breakthroughs. One of them was how they're managing scope. Notably, this pattern of I'm trying to teach them how to cut scope, how to slice. Right? We're constantly discussing how to slice. With one of my clients, we're doing that through TDD. So we're doing a pairing session where we're defining the tests together, where we're looking at where we get stuck the previous weeks and refining scope, breaking it down. And they had this pattern, this habit of every time, like we get nowhere, they get stuck. I sort of control the conversation a little bit more, I steer it, and then they turn back. And we keep doing this. And I asked them like
this rubber band method.
I keep calling it out, you know, and this took 6 months with this particular client to sort of articulate what's going on. Because usually this took so long, the oscillation of behavior, that we wouldn't really be able to finish in a single session what they needed to do. So it was like a triage call to discuss and learn and have coaching and training. And then they would go into their week and sort of decompress, reassess, and sort of try something new. And this week, the past few weeks, there was the first time that so this client that I had they got to the point where that which they normally would do in a week, we got to finish on our call, which was huge. They finally got the scope down, but it wasn't that they didn't know how to scope. It's just that it took us a very long time to articulate that anxiety that they're feeling of when we're scoping down in order to gain clarity and move forward, they get anxious about everything that we're removing. And when I leave the room, they would then anxiously put everything back in without my knowledge. And then I would debrief with them. I was like, yeah, but I got stuck.
The teacher's gone. We
I
can
got
return
stuck.
to normal.
Yeah, and I caught wind of this, but I couldn't articulate it. I didn't know where this is happening. Is this just normal in their organization, or is this, it's like is it trainer induced?
That is very normal.
It's very normal, and it took us a very long while. So it took us 20 sessions to sort of build chemistry, build rapport, learn a lot of different things. And then as we put it all together, now we got to the point where it's like, aha, I caught it in action, called it out, and we got to fix it. And then we got everything, like a week's work of progress done in an hour and a half. Right? And just that click moment of just let go of the things that we cut from scope so that we can make progress, so that you can keep that energy, you can keep that time, and you can actually do something else with it. We don't need to put the scope back in. And to design outside of the context of that scope. Like that was very powerful. I don't know how to explain this. I would call this, again, slicing of work, like how to break work down. Like that's what comes up for me for like this topic of discussion, because I have many different strategies for breaking work down, but it's usually people are smart, they know how to break work down, but the problem is when they break work down, they cut scope and then they get anxious about, yeah, but I promised it'll have this and now I'm cutting it. It's like, yeah, but you're just cutting it so that we can show progress, right? So that you can say that we're definitely not working on that which we're not shipping this week, and we are working on that which we are shipping this week. And for some reason, there's like a huge segment of developers who just get super anxious about this kind of thinking of everything I'm not shipping this week, I'm not even thinking about, I'm not touching. It's in the back of my mind. There's some contingencies to make sure that we can move forward in that direction, but other than that, zip. I'm just focusing on the next release.
So how do you want to call that topic? So it's about, you said regression, relapse.
It's more like inertia.
Backsliding, inertia.
It's more like inertia. Like that's the word that came to me. It's
So it's in the positive way. How do you get out of the cycle of backsliding and regression?
No, the opposite.
The opposite.
Inertia, as in the resistance to change.
The resistance to change.
The resistance, yeah, because.
Yeah, but what breaks the resistance? This is what I mean. So what is the positive thing? So that should be something which we talk about. That's my idea about that. Not specifically talking about the bad sides.
That's a good question.
But how can we? So we both had enough situations how we actually do that for people and what actually helped. So I made a lot of videos about that, how to get a team to do something out of intrinsic motivation and then move on to discipline. That is. You can have so many coaching plans like you want. It sounds great on a workshop. Everyone is being there, drinking together, having a fine lunch, talking is great. Next day, rewind, backslide, regression. You are back to the old system. So how do you get the people to actually change something, mindsets, behavior, habits, those kind of things, to really stay without external motivation? So extrinsic motivation. That's the point.
I'm not doing it in that general scope because it is very specific. It is very specific to following through on TDD. It is very specific on following through on continuous integration. That was our context, and I would like to retain that context for our discussion. So I think what we have to discuss here is the inertia of actually, the difference between saying you want to do TBD, continuous integration, and TDD, so test-driven development, trunk-based development, continuous integration. Then there's some kind of inertia, and then it's the how would I call it, the healing path, the healing journey towards actually taking it seriously. With this particular client, what helped was we went through a lot of shit together. As in, they were like, yes, but I can't do it in this code base. And I was like, why not? Show me. And we they listed all objections of why it's not possible in this project, and we tackled every single one of them for the past 6 months. It's like, why not? Because architecture.
Resistance machine got fire at you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it's just, okay, like, prove to me that we can't do TDD in this system. Why? Well, because it's ugly. Well, do you refactor it? I don't know how. Well, okay, well, we need to teach you how. And then we practiced how. It's like, but my stakeholder doesn't understand. Well, we need to teach you how to communicate with your stakeholder. It's like, well, but I don't know how to write a test and do the integration. Well, then we need to do some integration work. What tools are you using that are so arcane?
This is one of the problems. So if people stand in front of a huge pile of challenges, that is intimidating. That is triggering resistance response so much, right? That you actually don't do anything, because instead of fear of missing out, you have the opposite. You have fear of going forward even a step, right? So you want to run away. That's too much things going at the same time, and you need to find ways to break it down. Let's go step by step. Let's go into something and slowly change their attitude, their habits, their things, how they see things. How
there are two things, right? So now that you're talking about breaking it down, like, it's very difficult to do TDD. So TDD is about learning, right? If I'm being a little bit more philosophical, right? So people who have inertia to this kind of change, they're not very good at learning, right? So they're just not trying out new things. They don't know how to introspect and optimize themselves and get better at certain things. So TDD is a process that helps you break down work, but in order to do TDD and to learn TDD, you kind of need to break down your life. It's just like, why do I think I don't have time for this? Why do I think this is not valuable? Why do I think that this is a waste of time? Why do I want to regress and do that other thing that is anxiety driven, right? So I always say that the opposite of TDD is ADD, is anxiety driven development, right? So I usually have this, how I present it is that when we start coaching, they will be in two modes, right? They are ADD by default, anxiety driven development, and we're training TDD. And how they want to do it is do it a little bit, and then if it doesn't work, they will go back to their anxiety driven methods, like the devil they know. And the first way that I teach them to sort of overcome this is I ask them, let's flip it around. Rather than you being ADD dominantly, and then a little piece of pockets of TDD in the week, I want you to go all in on Monday morning, all in on TDD, and then you ping me when you feel like giving up. Because I want to know how long you can sustain the discomfort. Is it 10 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days? And I want to know when you regress back to anxiety-driven development. As I'm not doing the experiment anymore. I need to make progress. I'm stressed out. My boss, blah, 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 right? So the first thing I do with them is I'm sort of visualizing their resistance, their anxiety response, so that they are aware that, hey, yeah, like you said you would, but like there's no point us planning 2 days if you're gonna give up on it in 4 hours, right? So our plan needs to be 2 chunks of 2 hours, let's say, and we keep breaking that down. Where do you get stuck? Where do you get stuck? Like what brings that on? And we keep bringing it down. And with this particular client, like it's remote work. There's a language barrier a little bit. Like the code base is the subject matter experts are not English speakers, right? So there's like that element of it's Latin America. So there's a lot of that, and we get to break down this process in a way that they get to see themselves make progress. So they get to break down how they reason about themselves, and then that helps them also to sort of take this learning process to TDD, and I think it goes hand in hand. That's what we've been doing here. Like, if I had really had to describe it, I know it might be a little bit too much context for like a casual tech talk, but I think we can have an episode about this.
So, comment from LA Morgadas from Substack. Can't display it here. Is that's so frustrating. I've asked him what exactly. That's interesting. And Tony here asks.
All in Monday morning. What was your question from Substack?
No question. Statement. It's that's so frustrating. Probably the entire topic in helping other teams. But this is not only tech driven. That's human basic resistance.
It's normal resistance.
That's
But so the big thing is that I asked them not to do it piecemeal. I asked them not to put like a bucket of TDD in their calendar, and then everything else is not TDD. I asked them to go all in and just assume we're gonna do TDD all week, and I just want to figure out when they get like a reality check and they give up, and I want to measure the time, right? So I want to measure how long can they sustain without my involvement, because that tells me their cycle of learning, like because they give up when frustration gets big, which means that avoiding the frustration is what prevents them from learning. So we need to figure out how to bring that frustration in closer, more frequently, in smaller levels of intensity.
Before you completely discuss this topic, what is the we definitely missed the waffle here, but what is the topic so we can write it down for us?
I think, in general, I think we'll be overcoming resistance in changing engineering culture. Like, proving coaching methods on overcoming resistance in engineering culture, right? So we can highlight, we can do some like TDD, TBD, CI in the background. Then there was another thing, another breakthrough that had to do with focus. Very similar, but it was more about this resistance happening on a management level. So more like a CTO level client, where they constantly had these like, they want to talk release plan. And the more they pushed for a release plan, in a foreseeable future, like in days, the more the team was like, the other members in the meeting got anxious that scope was cut, and they sort of speculatively tried to put it back in and give promises. And it always derailed the conversation to the point where they had like 2-hour or 3-hour sprint planning meetings. And I helped them sort of like just identify what was necessary, and then we had like a little procedure for like how to, like what mindset to go back into the meeting, and they've been now able to reduce it from 3 hours to 1.5, and then from 1.5 to 1 hour, and now I think the last one was like key discussion points done in 40 minutes. So like it was a drastic reduction of like noise and waste necessary to plan the week, and that as well took a lot of effort, like from them, because it was very sticky. Like half of the team is neurodivergent, so they respond to stimulus differently. Half of them are very pedantic, half of them are very, very chaotic, half of them are very hands-on, but of course it's a different half, right?
Well, so most of them are neurodivergent and chaotic.
Yeah. And it's and then everybody wants order in their own like way, and it's hard to describe like who is being served by what. And then there's also those people who are like more junior people want to pair with somebody more senior. Only one senior is open for that. Other seniors want to be left alone because they're under pressure to prove themselves. And it's just that kind of sort of startup shifting into scale up, and they have to like mature their processes so heroics are no longer allowed. Right?
So it looks like you have a little testimonial here.
So Tony, interesting enough, Tony was one of my solo clients who I've helped find a new job after he's grown. And then he recommended me to his company, and I'm coaching one of the engineers at the engineering teams, the engineering leaders specifically in the company that he joined. So Tony and I go way back. But it's through his referral that I got the new client. So it's been interesting. Yeah, I've now been actively working on Tony's team for the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It's been quite intense. There's a lot, especially, and it feels like therapy. It feels like therapy of, just
Coaching is mostly therapy.
just giving space and like voicing all of those like
People
small
often think that coaching and mentoring is about teaching someone a specific practice, technology, way of working, but it is more like removing the obstacle in the mind of the people in order so they can learn it by themselves. That is one of those points.
Sort of, yeah. Like a reframing the priorities, or like reframing their belief structure, let's say. Right? Sometimes most of the coaching is either, for example, what often happens, especially in this team, is there might be miscommunication going on, right? So the knowledge context and the knowledge silos are so variadic in change that people who want to collaborate on a topic, the rate of change of their information streams, it's so different that by the time the week ends, they have learned at different rates. So when they talk to each other, they have 2 different conversations. And most of my work there in those situations is just shadowing those calls and just pointing out that, hey, sounds like you're having 2 different conversations, you're talking past each other, I'm hearing this and this and this. Can you phrase what he wants? Can you phrase what he wants? Just teach them. And then there is some of that. Some of it is process, helping them steelman somebody else's case, finding fallacies in their arguments, and pointing out inconsistencies in how they act, how they show up, and what we discussed in the roadmap discussions, right? So I make it my job to become an expert in their organization. So I basically devour all documentation that they have. I read all the strategic objectives, the roadmap, old videos, sales calls. So I brief myself in becoming a strategic expert in where the company is trying to do, because that might be a blind spot for the engineers. And then I go shadow the engineers, and I just sit there, shut up and listen, and wait for opportunities to like connect the dots for somebody who's like missing, or like just not seeing themselves as a piece of that bigger puzzle. They just don't know how they fit in. So I look for opportunities to help them sort of discover that information that they didn't even know they lacked.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the social aspect of some people just are afraid to speak up. So I'm there mostly like a bullshit detector, or like good cop, bad cop. Maybe somebody speaks too much. Maybe
it's the typical tech leadership aspects.
Yeah.
So I had that was one of the majority, or let's say one of the focuses I had, is to make sure that teams actually start to work together. In most cases, it was like there was this dominant person, or sometimes 2 dominant persons, and everyone was afraid if this person is present, basically the discussion of the team stops and everyone is listening to that person. And that needs to be removed in some way or another. So you can do that. And there were worst case scenarios where I helped CTOs basically try to get over that, try to handle that person. But some persons were so heavy on their opinions, actually biases, that a removal was necessary. Right, that is an extreme, and just for everyone who is listening to that and who knows that he or she might be such a person, on some point in time, you need to make a decision for yourself if you can be part of a team and even let others speak up and have those ideas to be valid ideas. This is the typical trustful and supportive environment, the culture of support, right? And if this is not possible and you are the bottleneck, then it's very likely that you get removed after a while, and you don't know exactly why, because people tell you other stories why you actually need to go. And that was in this case the very same thing. We had similar things on the other hand, so I tried to help a person get over that, and that person was basically trying to convince me that that wasn't the reason, and I said it is the reason. It is so obvious that there is a problem here, and that person was so, let's say, convinced that this isn't the case, and this is a little bit like a bad theory about the company, let's say this, and that's actually not the case. Very often it's just a very interpersonal thing. In a company where you know everyone else is still there and you need to go, it's mostly not a economic decision done here. That's mostly a personal decision, framed differently. And if that happens, don't lie to yourself and say that was an economic constraint. No, it was probably a problem you need to fix because you will face it again.
Yes, but the company is not legally allowed to voice it usually, because they're in some countries they're
political correctness and these kind of things.
Yeah, it might be opening them up for a discrimination lawsuit or whatever male it is, whatever malignant behavior it is. So specifically in these environments, well, often what I do is just be silent on a meeting, and then I'm like checking body language, and I'm noticing some people who like twitch and want to say something, but I can see on their face that they're like, there was a moment to speak up and they choose to remain silent. And then I nudge them, like live in the meeting. I would then give them advice. I would check in with them. It's like, hey, do you need to say something? Do you need help? So there's this like, if there's a dominant speaker taking over the meeting, I check in with everybody else, like, hey, what's going on? Are you? And of course, this only works in a remote-only environment. And it's fairly new that, you know, like it's that I can do this real time. It's like, this feels like a superpower. Like I can coach the entire room when it becomes dysfunctional. Right, and people might be having homework, so there are some people in the room who I'm actively coaching, so they might have homework to be more aware of certain aspects of how they're communicating or how they're asking questions or what they're focusing on. Usually having to do with clarity or focus on like planning or creating certainty or creating guarantees about ongoing work. And then I try to connect the dots with them. It's like, hey, this is a good opportunity for that which we discussed. Look for openings like this and this and this. Reminder, we discussed like these kinds of like questions that are like focused more on the solution, not the problem. Then that's going on behind the scenes while the meeting is ongoing. And as I'm just in there as like a life coach. It's like, you know, I'm sort of, you're having a meeting, I'm in your ear, and I can see that, hey, looks like you wanted to say something. Like, are you going to say it now, or do you want to discuss it privately or something like that?
Is it a topic now we discuss, or is it just a chat?
I don't know.
It's a little bit compatible, let's say, or similar to the topic before, where we say we need to break resistance.
Did you put that in the calendar anywhere?
No, I just logged in the chat right now.
Okay, you're taking notes.
Breaking resistance in engineering teams is the second one, and topic 1 is coding is not the bottleneck, not in parallel.
So I would separate that out with the 2 previous topics. So topic 2 would be breaking resistance in engineering teams. Topic 3 would be improving communication hygiene in engineering teams.
Hygiene sounds a little bit like bathroom. Do we have a better word?
Quality.
Yeah, that's better.
Quality. Communication quality. Yeah.
In tech teams.
Yeah.
In Dash, let the junior speak.
Sort of. And it's not really let the junior speak, but let's have a public discussion about why the junior decided to remain silent. Because they can speak. I can pull it out of them. That's not valuable. I can pull the information out of them when I know that they need to say something, I can invite them, right? But then I train them that they will only speak if I'm inviting them. But really what we should be having a discussion about is like, why did they remain silent? What did they believe was inappropriate in the moment?
We will rephrase it finally then, but I need to have something on the screen right now. So let the junior speak.
It's a good hook, like let the junior speak. I think that's a very good hook. You know, like, and it can be anything. It can be junior, it might be an introvert that might be dominated in the room. It might be a product person who's constantly being overruled by an engineering leader.
That's an interesting aspect. So I see many introverts phrasing to help other introverts getting along with non-introvert as extroverted people. The point is that when you take a look into statistics, it is not like the introverts are just 5% of society. It's like they are nearly the half or even more in some studies. So it is an interesting thing, and we should take care of that. We have an introverted half and an extroverted half of people, and we need to get them together. So that could be part of that topic as well. Should we think of a guest? Because that would be making that topic a little bit different to the topic before.
I mean, the name that comes up right now to me is Carolina. Carolina, whom you've met on like the
I remember
Palombini.
That could be a 4-people topic, so 2 guests actually.
You want to handle that?
Yeah, we could have Carolina and maybe another guest. So I'm thinking of Sarah because she was writing a book about that.
Okay.
Sarah Gruneisen, maybe.
I mean, we can focus it more on the executive layer.
That's both compatible then.
Yeah.
I will do that.
People dominating conversations between departments, or I don't know, customer service people being too lenient, engineers being too dominant, product people being too sort of detached. Because what happened?
looks strange. Isn't
it looks strange because I don't know. I think the color intensity of the background, just something doesn't. Something doesn't.
No, you just forget that.
Happy accident. So that's that. I feel like we should talk about test-driven development at some point, maybe next week.
I knew that was we can. Test-driven development with a specific context, or just test?
So honestly,
I would like to. I would like to diversify TDD to. I see it so often that people in the front-end area say, I don't like to do TDD. I don't have time, and I make so many changes, especially in front-end, and all those changes basically break my tests anyway, so I leave them out. This is what I
send them to me.
And this is the point where you actually need to understand, hey, what is BDD actually in that case? So BDD can be different things, but in general, you want to test the behavior, and that is what you do or want to do in an area like React or Vite as well. So you have components, sometimes large components, and you want to test each part you have done, because it is sometimes thousands of lines of code, right? You can't basically test it just for having 2 clicks and a text field, something like that. So what you actually want to do is you want to test what happens when you use those things on the outside. So you basically have a similar setup from the idea like you would do in an end-to-end test, but you are still in the offline testing mode and testing those things. That is what personally helped me a lot to get along. Maybe that could be a topic about how to apply
Nick also talked about this a lot.
But Nick does it differently. Nick does a enterprise level thing.
Yeah.
And which is very much isolating the functionality of functions away from things and test it like this. It's different.
I think there's like, when we say front end, we don't mean any front end. We mean HTML front ends. And HTML is a declarative language. And you can't code in HTML.
No.
Any code that happens is happening on a imperative layer. that is then hooked onto the declarative layer. And it is impossible to isolate yourself from that without touching that intersection point, ideally with some kind of framework. Like the nastiest bit of like that intersection touching was Microsoft's ActiveX and Flash and various similar tools. Then we got jQuery, which is a little bit more lighter, less enterprisey. And then we got heavy duty frameworks like React, Angular, etc. Right? So it's always that glue happening between the imperative, between the functional and the declarative space. Because those frameworks are there, those frameworks dominate you being able to touch the thing that you're testing.
Mm-hmm.
And this means that unit tests in the front-end world, because of this dual language problem, will always have an integration layer with whatever is translating. If that makes sense. Like imagine that.
Yeah. That's the reason why we have things like Cypress.
Yes. So,
which is not like VTest. It's basically a fully functional browser. Right?
So think of it like the code you're writing is JavaScript, but it's using an HTML database.
Mm-hmm.
The HTML is the database that the thing is putting stuff into, right? And that means that it is always an integration layer. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to integrate with the network, right? This is what Nick Shoemaker calls functional component tests. It's like, yes, we are integrating awareness of the framework that you're using to create components, because components don't exist naturally. You need to interface with the components. If nothing else, even if you are using native components, those native components still have some kind of glue code, setup, build pipeline, and you still need to interface with that in order to test it. If nothing else, it'll have some kind of loading mechanism, preloading mechanism, module, hot loading.
Especially state. In React, you have so much state around your component, which you need to integrate, or let's say have it as an input, or have getters inside the components reacting to that state. You cannot test without that without interfering or interfacing with that state outside. You can't write tests. It's impossible. The behavior depends on how the state is. That's the idea of React. So that makes it so hard. And maybe we could make that a topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to phrase it, to be honest, because I see so many starting companies like startups and saying, "Oh, we are in the early phase. We don't need to test." And I personally think you should. Not really for the prototypes you build, but on some point those prototypes become real stuff, right?
Yeah.
And people say, no, it's too much, right? But I think we could display something in a small scale where you could implement a very basic but functional and effective BDD pattern for React in a show, even showing code for a moment.
I wouldn't go that far, because I find that the simplification really takes from the substance. I mean, we saw with Nick's workshop is that it takes him like 2 hours to create an example that is interesting, that's captivating to the audience. And I think wanting to sculpt that down so that it's like very, very little coding for us, I think it makes it uninteresting. That has been my observation so far. I
don't think it's uninteresting when most people don't use it. Then it's not uninteresting. It is uninteresting for you as a TDD professional coach for years now.
No, it's not that I mean. The topic I agree with. I want to have this episode. I think this is a great topic. I think we should keep it to pseudocode or conceptual. I think us showcasing tools that people don't know in a way that is not,
Basic React and Cypress is not known.
Yeah.
It's actually quite easy to understand. I have a very specific setup in mind, not the complicated one of Nick, which is not meant primarily to be used with startups, in my opinion, but I can be wrong. I think there's an anxiety, topic 2 and 3, right? People don't want to use it because there is some hurdle, right? And I want to take the anxiety for people who just started, who have never done testing anyway. So people are like, yeah, I need to start to do this testing because we are building something substantial right now. Maybe I do that in the future. There I want to get in. How to start with the basics, but start in a way that you can extend in the future.
I think,
right?
So taking that into account, so you want to what? You want to showcase a do-it-yourself minimal
minimal thing for
tools
builders and startups. That's actually my theme.
Like one person or like one front end, one back end teams where you have like the minimal setup for TDDing or BDDing on front end,
which is extendable to 5 to 6 people. So
I know. I'm not particular about the number. But like that would be the ideal. So like,
exactly. Something you can start easy with which is still fitting the idea of TDD, BDD, and it's compatible with React without you changing the component, and you need to spend 50% of the time of the development to change the test to function somehow again.
Yeah, because usually what people miss is that there are like two things going on when you're testing in front end. There's the integration layer where you need to like interact with the framework somehow, and the framework is a detail that we don't really want to like put too much into our tests, right? So we need to handle that detail without losing our minds. And then the other aspect is usually the other integration point of a front end component is something network related. Of course, there's like the gazillions of browser APIs and video and geolocation. Like, yes, that exists. But predominantly, it's going to be network request. It's going to be fetch API related somehow. Or cookies or local storage. Like that's going to be the dominant layer of integration. I think just helping people reason about that conceptually and giving some simple tools for how to like reason about that without it being completely isolated in that sort of only JavaScript functional space, I think that would be very useful.
I think that's what already one of the key aspects. It's actually a different topic because there is, first of all, clashing a lot of ideas here. So when you have the React Spice, which is the most dominant or prominent both right now, so you can do this lazy thing and pack everything into a component. You can fetch in the component data from the server, directly use it, or you can even do that with SSR and those kind of things. Really tightly bundle those things to something you cannot control, cannot really test, because it is so integrated that you cannot really split that and test it anyway. You can do it right, so very right, like Nick is doing, and you can take the middle ground, which is still right, and it's extendable. But something like the component doesn't fetch data from somewhere. You need to have a wrapper for this, and you need to be able to not use Cypress functions to intercept something to test that, but to not have that in the component itself makes most sense. These architectural decisions help you. That's the simplest way of a ports and adapter pattern. So you can build an inner component and an external component. Same have the same name. One is called port and the other is called adapter. That would be a very simple thing. And in the adapter, you fetch the data. In the port, you have the actual implementation, and the port is tested then in tests, so that you can basically test the entire behavior of that pod without the necessity of having Docker spin up and all these kind of things. That's a very simple thing. But if you
still need Docker spin ups to test the actual adapters. I think that has to be emphasized.
But that's already an integration test.
Yes, of course. But the idea is that you're going to be testing a few integration points that enable dozens or hundreds of behaviors, right? So like you're sort of like optimizing how few integration tests you need to support core behaviors. rather than making everything of the integration test. And then once the integration layer changes, then all hell breaks loose, right? Like that's the main issue, is that if there is an integration layer.
Type safe system and schema safe system actually prevents, we don't have those problems actually. So the adapter layer is actually never breaking. That's an interesting part. You can do that without outside things like API testing. So have a separate test case for just the API.
That's my preference as well. I don't like the whole backend and front end sharing types. Like, to me, there's always been a bit.
We at our company, we don't test the adapters directly because there is where most things change.
Yeah.
This is you would have so many additional tests which just test something which is already tested.
There would just be snapshot tests. Yeah.
Yeah, that's those don't break. It's a little bit like you see when you develop it, that in the moment you would develop it, it would basically break. And the idea of the adapter is that it's only function there, and you have for another instance another adapter, which means that if you do something wrong if you would use the same adapter for different things. So you shouldn't do that. That's the key how to get that.
Okay. Now, how do we call this topic? Like minimal tool set for front-end testing. For front-end testing for beginners.
Shall we call it React directly to be more hooky, or front-end?
Yeah, I should put React in there.
Minimal React TDD.
Yeah, React TDD, I think would be
minimal React TDD.
Keyword density. What else?
Practices for startups and builders.
Now we're talking.
So
what makes Nick's approach enterprisey is that he empowers all aspects of the hexagon.
Exactly.
And he separates all of them together. I think, like, even in enterprises, I would lean on one side being dominant. So I would lean on the domain owning the dominant ports. And I would only separate out adapters for exemplary implementation. So I wouldn't separate out the implementation of the adapter from the interface of the adapter. If the interface of the adapter is in some way asymmetric with the interface of the port. Usually these things happen, right? So for example, to make it a little bit more concrete, you might have a repository for a user, typical DDD pattern, repository for a user. You create an interface for, I just need to fetch a user. And then you define a port which says, like, what are the operations we can do on our repository? Like, we can check it if it exists, or we can reserve a name, or we can create, we can load, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, the adapter also has implementation in that there are certain kinds of adapters which are adapters that traverse the network layer. There are certain kinds of adapters that are in memory, right? So when I'm building an in-memory like stub for the adapter, do I make the in-memory one asynchronous? Right? So do I include the fact that the real thing is assumed to be network operated when I'm building a unit test? Like, am I still opening up a local port, even if it's just a Unix port, and communicating with myself through a imaginary network protocol? It's still happening in memory, but is that part of the abstraction? Like, that's where usually it goes wrong, right? Like, especially when people abstract away ORMs or fetching related adapters, this is the abstraction that they get wrong. Because there might actually be detail that is important about what are the guarantees of that protocol. Do they have retries? Do they time out? Can they be canceled? Can it send back multiple responses? You know, it's like, well, you asked it a question, but maybe it's a socket that's already always open. It doesn't do request response. It does provide this, and then the information goes somewhere else, right? So that is part of design, And usually beginners of hexagonal architecture oversimplify that. And I think what we are seeing for Nick's examples is an oversimplification of a much more complex adapter system.
But you say oversimplification, but for most React developers, especially in the Next space, that is already overkill.
Yeah.
That's the.
Yeah.
But it is not. It's just in the.
But it's
heads of
essential.
people.
It is essential because he probably has components at work. He's working in a bank where there's a situation for maybe there's an abort. Maybe we need to ban a certain user. Maybe we need to lock it down. Maybe your device was stolen. Maybe we're not allowed to finish this request. Maybe we need to abort this request. Maybe the request time's out. Maybe there's a retry policy on certain things and not on others. And maybe some of that makes it into the front end layer, right? So I wouldn't trivialize this. Those patterns are there for a reason. It's just that it's very hard to convey all details for which that pattern exists into a single kata. And even that which Nick has, like that takes 2 hours to demonstrate.
This is the reason why we phrase it for startups and builders, because then we can basically boil it a little bit down to the point where we say, okay, let's go to the very basic ports and adapter pattern, how to split things and have a good separation.
I just want to emphasize that, okay, yes, this. Next topic. Next topic is how to follow, and maybe we can finish on this. I don't know. Next topic would definitely be, from my perspective, of like how to get better at learning these things. Nice focus. Out of focus. I don't know. I don't have
specifically.
Sorry.
Do you mean TDD in specific? Or?
No. So I see a fallacy, a learning fallacy, with how people approach these kinds of initiatives. So they are like, we want to do TDD. So I will go on a TDD course, and I will come back from the course, and I will have a presentation to my team about what TDD in a clean environment looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's La La Land. That does nothing. And then we normalize this idea that TDD is very hard. Software is very easy, but TDD is very hard. And we will teach you the hard TDD on a very simple project. And then you will learn TDD. And so, wow, and it's amazing. And then you come back to the real world, and it's like, but I'm not working on a simple project.
Especially on a project which was never built in a sense of TDD and those kind of things we've just discussed. And you have to do something to get to the state where you can fluently work with it.
Yes, and that is actually the work of how to get to TDD, not TDD itself, right? And because then you say, no, but my project is a mess, and my manager is an idiot, and my team doesn't understand this, and nobody supports me, and we never have time, and customer success is breathing down my neck. And here I have this TDD certificate that I did a kata somewhere, and I connected 2 adapters together, and I wrote a unit test. But how do I make progress on my project?
Here's my Udemy certification.
And here's my certification. So I want to talk about, like, people usually get the scope wrong. They come in with this idea of TDD is only possible in a clean environment, and then they're like, how do I clean everything? And they want to do one of 2 things. Rewrite everything so it's clean, which of course nobody will like. They will think product will think they're crazy. Or number 2, they want to do new stuff on a greenfield project. And then they start with microservices and Strangler Fig, and it's like, let's do that new thing with TDD. And I'm like, it just hurts, you know? And because what I'm trying to teach them is that I'm like, when we're learning TDD, we are learning TDD in a very strict way. Like we are minimizing the number of tests we're writing, not maximizing. So what we're doing is I am trying to ingrain that idea that because you're not very good at writing good unit tests, we are first minimizing the amount of bad unit tests that you're writing. So we're going to really focus down on what is the nastiest, biggest, most important part of the code base, and then reframe the question of how do we test that? Not how do we do TDD, but how do we test that? Which customer does that serve? Which value stream does that serve? Who is upstream of that value stream? Who is downstream of that value stream? Why are we touching this so often? What assumptions aren't true here? Who was the original author? How did this evolve? And we're trying to learn how do we test that. And we start with the key incisions of anything new you're touching, at least the new stuff we're testing. And then we're trying to figure out how deep into touching that thing do problems arise, and why are they there, and what are we going to do about it? And I'm using specifically CodeScene for this, because I want to learn, okay, who's touching a hotspot right now? Who is buried under bugs?
Mm-hmm.
And where does the current roadmap priorities overlap with hotspots, overlap with lots of bugs? That is the only place where we write tests. Because otherwise, everybody will be looking for those easy tests. It's like, oh, there's something easy here that nobody cares about. I can make a unit test for that. But then they will burn out. They spend all of their energy on trying to test cover the easy stuff around the code base that nobody cares about. That doesn't even change. That nobody even knows why it's there. They're just testing implementation, and they're just sort of training themselves that it's okay to just take existing code and test it and just test the implementation, because those are not good unit tests. And you're just wasting your time on like cheap candy. And what I'm trying to get them to do is, when you meet the real world, it'll be frustrating. And accepting and pushing through that frustration will enable the learning. But if you exhaust yourself on the cheap, easy unit tests, then you will be too tired to tackle the real learning. So I'm trying them not to unit test anything that is non-essential. And we start with testing, okay, how do we test this thing? What can we put on it? A smoke test, maybe. Maybe we can't write a good unit test, but maybe we can write a good smoke test. Right? So we can't test that the behavior works, but we can test that it's down. We can test some guarantee that it is in a deteriorated state. Right? And then we start from there, and then we sort of, okay, is this one component or multiple? And then we start piecing it apart. So it's really about how to get better at testing initiatives. So continuous quality, continuous learning. That's my topic suggestion.
Okay, now phrase it for me.
I don't know. You phrase it for me.
Oh.
Topic is it? So it would be
how to kick ass to get into TDD.
No, but learning TDD in a messy code base. Because I think this is very important. And I think this, more than anything else, people respond most positively to when I'm coaching TDD. It's there's no katas, there's no examples. It's here's your code base. Let's learn a few patterns, and then let's learn how to get your code base into that pattern. So there might be a little bit of hexagonal, there might be a little bit of introducing seams, working with legacy code. But ultimately, it's what's in the way. Is it static dependencies? Is it uncontrolled dependencies? Is it chaotic dependencies? Is it inherited state, inferred state? It's usually one of those things. And usually it has something to do with state. Why isn't this a declarative or a functional pattern, right? So where is the imperative state? And usually I teach them how to reason about that, how to spot them. And then we do also design patterns and code smells, and then how to extract those to get them into a testable form, but emphasizing that I don't care how you guys do TDD. I want you guys to help the business answer the question of how do we test this? How do we test cover this? Mm-hmm. How do we add the capability of self-diagnosis of self-testing to this part of critical business infrastructure. That's what I'm trying to teach them. TDD is just a delivery mechanism for, right? Because it's already written. So I want them to learn how to deal with a legacy system, while anything new that we're adding, we're then doing with TDD. But only the new stuff we're doing with TDD. Everything else is just trying to reason about a legacy system.
Mm-hmm. Good. We have 5 topics. I think we shouldn't do more than 5, and just have
scope seems good.
because last time we tried 8 or 10, and I don't know. It's a little bit much. So just do a little bit over a month. Dennis away on 8th anyway. So
let me open up. So we have.
Just take a look at the chat here.
10, 17, 24, 1, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, so now our biggest obstacle would be we have 2 episodes that require guests. So we need to sort of step up on introductions, agenda.
So next week we do coding is not the bottleneck, and there was no guest.
No, that one has a guest. So that one definitely
it's not
does.
topic 1.
That's not topic 1. Topic 1 could be one of these 2 that we discussed now. It's like minimal React on front end or TDD in a messy code base. That would be next week.
Then let's do minimal React.
Okay.
Oh, I need to copy that one.
Yeah,
sorry,
so let's
just quickly do that.
Look, since this is fresh, okay, let's do it like this. Let's do improving communication quality in tech teams. Let's do that next week. Because you might need some time to prepare for anything technical. So next week, topic 3.
So messy code base next week. Improve. Okay.
Improving communication. We said that might be the one that has the guest, but I think let's just have this one be about juniors and about like team-wide psychological safety, and then let's have a separate episode for the executive layer with the guests. And this one is me sharing what I'm doing with my, in tech therapy.
That's topic 2 then.
No, topic 2 is breaking resistance. That's something else. That's more scoping related. Topic 1 is coding is on the bottleneck. Topic 2 is breaking resistance. That's that I'm trying to scope down, but you get anxious. So it's that anxious driven development that like when does the anxiety kick in? Topic 2 we can do later. Topic 3 would be improving communications without guests. Topic 4 would be minimal React in TDD, and topic 5 would be TDD in a messy code base. What I'm suggesting is that we do 3 without guests next week. Then we do topic 4. Then we do topic 2 if needed. And then we do the 2 episodes with guests. Whichever comes first. So topic is not coding is not the bottleneck, and the other episode of like topic 6, which would be communication on the exec layer. Like breaking down silos basically, right? So improving communication quality, breaking down the silos. So topic 3 is communication inside the team. The other version would be between the teams, which is the organization-wide silos. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Like what about what I said is confusing or hard to follow?
I just try to put that into calendar while you're speaking. That's my challenge.
Yeah, so my idea here is that there's a guest episode, and then Dennis is away, and then there's another guest episode. I think that would be good pacing. And we can do the our work/streaming setup as a filler episode in case our guests cancel. Or we can't get them to be confirmed, or life happens.
Okay, take a look at the calendar. Topic 3, topic 4, topic 2. There's no topic 1.
Topic 1 is coding is not the bottleneck.
Yeah, okay.
That's one of the guest episodes.
Yeah, then we have Topic 5. We don't have topic 5 scheduled in my thing. A second.
Yeah, we can do that after Dennis comes back, and then we can have the guests after that. So the executive level, that's one of the guest episodes, and then we can have topic 5. I can't copy from Restream, only you can copy.
No, I copy it from LinkedIn. I have the same issue.
Because it shows it on the screen.
Yes, okay. You can make a screenshot, give it to.
No, stop it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus 1. So the executive level, that's the other guest episode.
It's actually yes, that's true. That's why the guest can be removed. The last one.
Yeah. And then this guest episode is topic 1. That's coding is not the bottleneck. Whichever happens first. We can also mix the guests around.
That's cool. That's a good plan for our tech journey.
Yeah.
So it's not too codey this time. Turns out the codey parts are cool, but not for like an extended period. It's more like that needs to be that's not the format actually.
I mean, I'm still toying with the idea. I mean, one of the most powerful things that we could do is get people who want to be coached on the stream and provide live coaching.
Live mental support.
Like live coaching, yeah.
We could do that with builders, to be honest, because that's something. So you can't do that with enterprise, obviously, but builders are very.
They all have too much red tape around what they're allowed to speak about and what they're.
Yeah. It needs to be something. Hey, I have a project here which is interesting.
It needs
How
to
would
be
I
simple but raw, and
entertaining. So it's still some streams that should be.
I mean, it can go deep. It can be profound. It can be very.
We had that with Jonathan Hall.
Yeah,
he was building his database adapter.
Yeah.
Was it an adapter?
That was more pairing.
Exactly. He was talking about. It's not like me helping him.
I mean,
he was helping us.
Because I'll be more interested in. You know what? Really resonated with me. What really resonated with me is when. What's his name? Hugh. You remember Hugh?
Yeah, that was a little bit like those help calls in Friday night radio sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Dave Ramsey, and you're deep in debt, and you have a mortgage and 50K debt in credit, and you're asking.
It's interesting, but it's
advice.
Not like you invite a guest to do that. That was a spontaneous thing. Right?
Yes, because they reached out for help, right? So it's like it's like tech, like engineering culture hotline. It's like just having an episode like that.
That's typical startup stuff. So if you have that on the enterprise level, something's severely wrong here.
No, but I mean for builders, for startups, scale-ups, like it doesn't need to be not an enterprise, but it's enough that it's enough that a startup that has funding or beyond MVP stage, but not really heavily corporate yet with 5,000 people. Right, so it's more about that idea of there's an engineering leader, because I see it all the time on Reddit. Experienced devs, it's like, hey, experienced devs had this like amazing, this rant thread recently of somebody complained about their on-call. Everybody hates on-call, and a senior engineer complained that a junior engineer on their team asked their manager not to be on call and not to be on on-call rotation because it interfered with their mental health. And they had a chat with their manager and they approved it. And then the senior felt slighted the author of the post, felt slighted that why are we allowing some people, like, this is a sacrifice, like everybody's sort of right, everybody's in hustle mode, everybody sacrifices, it's like it's shit, but you gotta take it. Why is somebody allowed to be on call? It's not fair to the rest of us, right? And that was a very interesting discussion, right? Because there's a lot of things that this person has missed. This person only sees the negative thing that they lost, but they're not seeing the overall picture. And it's a very good, like, people like that, like getting them on, like trying to figure out what format is necessary to get like that kind of, hot seat join or have like that.
That's not a hot seat join. I think that's preparation intense.
Yeah, like we just need to get questions,
convince the people
to
be very open about what's going on in their companies. And even the loud YouTubers are like, we build a product, but I don't actually tell too much about how we have multiple persons working on that. I don't tell who that is. These kind of things. It's a little bit like there are so many obstacles actually talking about these kind of things. Like I never say a name, maybe a little bit of gender, but that's it, because you run into problems, because you really need to ask people. If you talk about the team,
I'm not saying they need to come live and like put themselves on the spot. What I'm saying is that let's have, because usually how we get them is we have a topic, it touches a really like it touches this area of pain that they're struggling with, and then when it resonates with them, they start talking about it and asking questions like how should I deal with this, like what do you think, right? And Hugh comes to mind because Hugh had this issue. We had conversations about how to structure your development efforts, how to estimate, how to plan your projects. Hugh came in, he was like, yes, I need this, all of my projects are always late, all of my, like, I don't trust my devs. And it, like, we asked him, it's like, okay, but what do you want? It's like, what does better look like? And then there was a very interesting conversation. He was in chat and he was responding to it. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to be in chat, in public. We could just make space for such a discussion so that we don't have a topic and then we're waiting for random questions to pop in, but we have an episode only about QA. So an episode that is only a format meant for...
It's an AMA thing.
Like, yeah, like
but engineering that needs to be planned 3 weeks up front and be advertised 10 times, including Google Ads, to be very successful.
I don't know. I think only having 3 questions would be enough. Just figuring out a format.
But you need to have the people, so
yes,
it's not like a spontaneous 1 hour before thing. Like today, no one is joining, as we see, right?
I know there's been quite a few.
And 10 people around, right? But of course,
yeah. No, but there's 10 people on my Substack.
Because most episodes can be still valuable because you make videos out of that. You can watch later. You can make clips. Those kind of things.
Yeah, and this
is AMA session is very much now. People must be there.
The AMA session is to the most benefit to the people asking the question and to the people who sort of resonate the most with those questions.
What we could do, by the way, that's a good idea. We should plan something like that. That's actually a good thing. Could be a special episode as well.
Yeah.
But the interesting part would be like a TDD heckler session, like you do in comedy, where you can have people who are anti-TDD, put them into the audience, and getting some interest. No,
I think that would only be interesting if it was actual comedy. Right, if it actually had comedic, like satire. I mean, we could have a satirical episode where we're only talking about bad practices.
That's a Christmas thing when things become less serious. But we could plan a special on another day than Wednesday, having a big MMA session.
We could have a Halloween special of how to create the toxic engineering team from hell. It's like the
how to be a real boss, right?
So how to create the most toxic work conditions.
Yeah, how to make developers exchangeable. How to replace them by AI. All right, and what are good tactics to lay off people? No, those kind of. Actually, I don't know exactly if I could make fun of it, because there's a it's touching for me.
We don't have to go that deep.
Because when you talk about, I really it's like I genuinely dislike those kind of things in a way that I cannot even make fun of them. That's hard for me. I tried just, but it's actually hard, because I think there's so much going on out there where it's not like the people just suffering. It's like the people suffering together with their families because of that. And that's something I dislike. And I can't support it anyway.
What are we talking about?
I mean, every form of, let's say, problems on company levels, which is caused by ignorant people, bad people, by greedy people, those kind of things. And when those problems are taken home or even lead to layoffs, when you need to feed a family, something like that, in a time of economic crises, those kind of things, it's a very bad topic. I don't like to make fun of that, because that is a very serious thing when lives depending on that. That's my opinion. I had too many mentorings where I really was thinking days after that about the stories I heard from the people. And that's what really touches me. And I don't like to make fun of it or try to, do like that is maybe something we could even, or something like that. It is not like that. It is a serious topic, and too many people are simply ignoring things. And you see that in the last 5 to 6 years, where we have VC or corporate driven investment things going on, and people are treated like, hey, we just employ people, then we throw away the people. We encourage people to go into that industry, and then most of them are being unemployed, and no one is taking care of that. Those kind of things.
I'm not sure what we're talking about, just for context, because
what the fuck is he talking about?
So you're saying if we made a satirical episode, it would touch
about all the bad things we hear on LinkedIn, social media.
But it would go too close to something we had to do that we're not proud of, and that it wouldn't be fair in that context to those people who might feel slighted by that. Like, is that what you're saying?
No, it's more like I don't want to make fun of things which are real problems for others, not in a way that we talk about challenges to overcome and become better. I mean, really to survive in a society and where people need to earn money. That's it. So the hard.
So we can still make it funny, but we have to have some rules.
But not to Halloween.
But not today, and we have to discuss it. Okay. Something that you said, we might actually be able to do something else.
An AMA session?
No, I'm thinking about a new topic. So I'm thinking about not sure how to phrase it. So there are certain things in the industry which are unhealthy but are encouraged, and healthy but discouraged. So, for example, micromanagement is seen as a bad thing. Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to be perceived as a micromanager. That's one aspect. Another aspect would be full autonomy is seen as something negative, because people will be doing all kinds of crazy things. So then they gatekeep them, or they sort of, coddle them and sort of have like these approval processes. Like not having a plan is terrible. Like we need to plan everything to a high degree of detail, but then deviating from the plan and replanning is being stigmatized.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think there are like these logical fallacies and recency biases, I would say, that overvalue what's currently going on as the only standard, that create a lot of let's say, negative spirals of behavior. So self-reinforcing negative behavior. Right. For example, you might have a sprint planning session, and you want absolute control in that sprint planning session. And usually, what I do is I come in and say, well, what if we don't have the meeting? I'm not suggesting we have it differently. Let's not have it. What happens? Right? And it's that I'm talking about. Oh, my board will think I'm crazy. Or, but it's that, like, I don't know how to describe it. But I see a lot of these kind of beliefs. So like ingrained beliefs of what people think, other people think of them about being professional conduct and what is not professional conduct. Right?
Well, you can make a little concept and write it, and we can make a special or something like that.
A special?
Something outside of the regular
So
podcast.
I will be talking about it so I think topic 2 is very close to that. Topic 2 and topic 3. So maybe we'll have some questions resulting from those streams, and then we can probably refine it. This feels like something that I'll need to refine.
Good. Then we're coming to an end, isn't it?
I hear some clicking sound. Is that coming from you?
No, that's the music.
That's the music?
The clicking sound. I make another one. Is it gone now?
Yes. It sounded like there's a dog walking around my ceiling. That's fun. Okay, enough. I think we have them scheduled. We have some to-dos. We have to follow up with our guests. And this is a cool episode.
What could be an interesting topic in the future as well, I will stream about that myself in the context of Adrian Builds, is how to work with basically AI APIs. I didn't realize before the last weeks how complicated that topic actually is, and how hard it is to test those kind of things, because it is not predictive. So it's basically something you can test to the specific degree. On some point over that one, it becomes very interesting how to talk and how those, let's say, AI things are working right now.
And they're streaming APIs, which makes them really fascinating. On the protocol level, it makes them really interesting.
That's as well, and that will be extremely heavy for me in the next 6 months. The topic, heavy in terms of the
that
weight.
Is something we could have, like code on screen with Llama or something locally, so that people can follow along without like having to burn their credit card. And
actually, that's an interesting point. Using like OpenAI is way cheaper when you do that with with API, than using agents. Agents, it's a little bit like they work differently than fetch and catch data yourself.
Agents are awesome for like research where they either need to have access to something on your machine or the internet.
Yeah, but working with AI to build AI tools, so not AI itself, but use the AI to make something out of it, that's a new discipline for me, because it's probably a new discipline for most people out there. And well, that's a core aspect of what we're going to do with our software. And that's interesting how, first of all, it shifted, because that wasn't the idea 2 years ago, but now it is, and how it changes things. How it can be tested, how you actually use AI to build AI. That's interesting, because the things how you actually prompt an AI to get a result and handle an input is a complicated thing. It's like I wasn't aware of so many things, like you need to token budgets, those kind of things. That's the very first thing. I wasn't understanding why I need to define my token budget before I send something to OpenAI. Why I need tools like TickToken to calculate that.
Yeah.
What is temperature? How you set temperature? Those kind of things. Is it's pretty much technical, but at some point in
It's
time,
very technical. Yeah.
can be an interesting topic for people because AI is known. Everyone
I
knows.
mean, not
there's no
technical, but
objection.
like ML technical, not engineering technical. It's more like machine learning, linear algebra. It's more in that domain.
Yeah, but how you actually use it? That's my context now.
Oh,
So
like
how
a
you
use
as
case for temperature? Yeah.
you as a developer, you can set those things,
Yeah.
but how do you know what to set? I think GPT-5 tries to get away from that, so you cannot really set the temperature anymore, but in all models before you could. And what's the difference? Why do you need to do those kind of things? And how do you structure data? Why is people claiming that JSON, for example, is a bad idea as a format between you and the AI? But in recent scenarios, there are studies and things like when you do use JSON mode, it's actually a very good idea in large contexts to not drift away. Those kind of things are very interesting. And I learned a lot, and I basically learn there is something every day. And that's interesting. I really like a burning topic for me right now, because this is where you really can shape the knowledge basis of AI, those solutions. I understand why DigitalOcean, for example, is building a platform. We don't use it, but it's building a platform where you can handle models.
DigitalOcean partner?
We are still, but we don't really do something there. So I don't know if we stay that, because I don't know. We use DigitalOcean, but we don't really do like anything to help other people right now. There is not much interest from people in infrastructure in general. So when people talk to me, they don't talk to me because of infrastructure. I don't talk about infrastructure.
Yeah, it's more about leadership and building stuff.
Exactly. It's about recently Next.js a lot, React. It's about leadership, tech teams, those kind of things. That's my burning topics. And that's okay.
Are you now discussing a topic that you're going to have on Adrian Builds, or would you like to propose this for one of our OTJ topics?
I think we will have that definitely in the future, because
Can you do Adrian Builds first, and then we can have like a... Like, I liked how we did it last time, where you had an Adrian Builds and I watched it. And then we had a discussion next week about what you build and sort of zooming out and sort of discussing it.
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting. I don't think we have
as soon as we released, I was going to stream anyway.
Hey, you keep talking about that release, and when I'm asking you when you're releasing, you're telling me you're already released.
I haven't said that.
I don't want to hear that promise anymore.
Right? The release is it is slowly releasing the leash, right? It's a little bit like...
I would hope we get to refine what the word release really means.
It's a really like it's like shipping. It's like really slowly letting the ship into the
Where's
water.
the Rasmussen music?
Right? That's it. So in reality, we have released... Okay, never mind. Let's do the release with music. It's basically better, right? Why don't you use ugly music then? Like nature sounds or rain. That's good. That's all right.
It sounds like white noise.
Yeah, anyway, I think we should stop, because we start to do things which aren't that interesting anymore. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will have Okay, I shut that down.
So one of the reasons I'm teasing you about releasing is that you said we would have a launch party when you do release. So when you're less busy focusing on the release, when you're post-release, we would have like an OTJ hackathon or like an OTJ builder session where we could put the content board publicly on the web. Because if that's not happening,
a good idea.
Because if that's not happening, maybe we can just prototype and put our Notion board, some view from our Notion board. So
no, that's no problem. We could actually already do that.
Yeah, but we have private notes in there, so we might have to clean up a public view.
page bar is released. It is just not, there's no landing page where you can buy it. It's still hidden. But the product itself works. So we could do that actually.
Okay.
It's out there since 2 weeks already, but we only do that in basically a closed beta.
Because you and I discussed this, we wanted to build a OTJ community website.
I just simply forgot that, so that was
that was too much. And we still said that was too much, but it was nice to have like content somewhere and like a single page plus maybe people being able to comment or like have like a
shall we quickly take a look at that? And actually we can do that. That was a mistake of mine. I just really forgot that. We could switch one of them and make a session where we create our page with the RSS feeds of us both, the next plan, and of course a t-shirt shop for Kaloyan that he can buy t-shirts from us. He don't need to buy, he basically gets that anyway because he's the manager of the fan
we need
club.
some t-shirts. We need merch.
Yeah, it's basically possible.
Okay, but merch is nice to have.
This is absolutely important. It's
RSS.
essential. Finally, I need to have a cup where this. What is that? That's a stupid Chinese thing.
What is that? Chafe. Chafe. Who's chafe?
Cafe.
Isn't cafe in German spelled with a K?
Yeah, but not everything we have on is basically German here. Right?
Who's chafe? Who's Schafe?
Schafe. Okay, shall we do it like on the 17th?
Wait, what is that squeezing? What do you mean do it on the 17th? Does that mean that we're moving?
We can make a special as well. That's okay for me. If you like a special.
So I think the minimal React setup might be more interesting than this to our audience.
This is why I said we could make a special.
Look, let's do it that way. Let's do it October 1st. And then we have our guests when I'm back from vacation.
Good.
That makes more sense. And then we also have a little bit more time to talk to Carolina, talk to Tim, and everybody else that you mentioned, to Sarah, to check for availability, interest, context, refinement. Yeah.
Good. Done.
Good. Done. Tschüss.
Tschüss.